Hello everyone, this is a review of the Ego T 650 mAh electronic cigarette, and this was purchased online from me. I bought the starter kit, which comes with the adapter, USB to electronic cigarette adapter, which is used to charge the electronic cigarette, as well as all the components you could see on the right for the electronic cigarette itself. And in this video, I will pretty much go over the different parts, the liquids that you can get, and sort of the how to start transitioning from a regular cigarette smoking to electronic cigarette vaporizing. First, I will be going over the parts of the electronic cigarette itself. So as you can see right here, it comes with a drip tip, which is attached to the cartomizer, which is the thing on the right that I've shown you. The drip tip is the part on top where you put your mouth over, and your option is to also drip liquid into that hole to refill the cartridge. And the atomizer is basically the piece below that, which holds all the liquid and allows your vapor to be formed from the liquid that's inside. And on the left hand side is the battery basically that charges everything. So this one is the 650 mAh, that's the power of the battery, and this is again the Ego T. So these two are the components of the e-cigarette that comes with the starter kit, and as well as the charger that you saw in the previous picture. In this frame, I've broken down the basic components of the electronic cigarette into three basic parts for you to be able to see more clearly the different parts. So on the left there, again, is the 650 mAh electronic cigarette battery, which charges up the entire electronic cigarette. And in the middle, I've broken down the cartomizer from the drip tip, which is on the right. And the drip tip is where you put your mouth around, and you can also drip your liquid into there, although I prefer to open it up and drip it into the actual cartomizer. And in the middle right there, you see the cartomizer, and there is, as you can tell, I wanted to show you from the top angle because there's a hole down the middle, and that is where your vapor comes from. So you will be basically puffing and inhaling through that hole. So basically what you want to do when you insert your liquid into the cartomizer, that you want to put it through the side because you don't want it to touch the hole, because if you do, then the electronic cigarette liquid will be in the way of that hole where you're going to be breathing or puffing through. So when you have your liquid, you basically will put the dripper against the metal surface the metal part that you'll see surrounding the cartomizer, and just letting it drip slowly down the side of the cartomizer, and you'll see how much liquid that can hold later. I'll show you guys later. But what you basically want to do is avoid the middle part, which is where the vapor comes from. And these are basically the different components, again, of the electronic cigarette. It's the drip tip on the right, the cartomizer in the middle, and the battery on the left. So the battery charges everything up. The cartomizer turns your liquid into vapor so that your nicotine and your flavors can be turned into vapor, and you can taste it and inhale it and have the nicotine be absorbed into your bloodstream. And so basically, yeah, again, the battery is on the left, the cartomizer is in the middle, and on the right is a drip tip, which you can use either to put some electronic cigarette liquid into the cartomizer or just as a mouthpiece. So when you put everything back together, this is what it looks like. And what I'm doing right now is I'm basically turning on the electronic cigarette. So if you're using it for the first time after you've put everything together, you're going to push the button down 5 times, push the power button down 5 times really quick. And once the LED light turns blue, that's when you know that it is turned on and activated. So when you're ready to vape, you just press down on that button again, and you inhale or puff, and you let go of it after you're done and release your vapor, exhale. And some people say that, you can just hold the LED button for just a short while you're inhaling. You don't have to hold it the entire time. So that's really up to you how you want to use it. But yeah, this is what it looks like all together. And also, to turn it off, you can basically do the same thing as you did when you turn it on. So you basically press down on the LED button 5 times really quick in order to inactivate it. That way, when you are holding the electronic cigarette either in your pocket or in your bag or your purse, you can have it there knowing that it's not going to accidentally activate if the button accidentally pushes against something else. That way you will be saving the battery and whatnot. So yeah, 5 times to turn it on, 5 times to turn it off, and you just hold down on it in order to vape. This picture shows you the amount of vapor that comes out of one puff of the 650 mAh Ego T electronic cigarette. This is a close-up of the cartomizer, which shows you the increments of volume that compose the entire cartomizer. And if you are refilling your cartomizer, you basically, as I've said before, you want to drip the electronic cigarette liquid down the side of the cartomizer and don't let it touch the tube that goes down the middle, because that is where your vapor comes from and you don't want any liquid in there. So you basically drip the liquid down the side and you let it go up to my mark here on this specific model is 1.6 milliliters. So you basically fill it up until then, whatever flavor you want, you can get, and it goes up to there, and then you can twist the drip tip back on. So before you put the electronic cigarette liquid in, you take the drip tip off to fill it. That's what I like to do, and then I put the drip tip back on afterwards. And if you're refilling between different flavors, what I like to do is to just kind of wash it a little in between so that you get the previous flavor out. And what I do is just go to my sink and I let water drip from the sink. Don't turn it on too high, just have it be dripping. And I do the same thing as I do with the liquid, which is I just have the sink drip water into the side of the cartomizer so that it doesn't touch the middle part. And I just basically just don't let it go too high, but basically let it touch around the 1.6 ml mark and just rinse it out that way. And be sure to also rinse your drip tip so that you don't have any leftover flavors there, and you just refill your liquid inside. In order to recharge your Ego T650 cigarette, electronic cigarette, you'll know that it needs to be recharged if the LED light turns orange or red. And when that happens, you can basically twist the end. I have just a battery showing here. I've isolated it from the other parts of the electronic cigarette. So you have the battery, and as you can tell, there's a part where you can twist onto the other end of the adapter. So you take the charger and you attach the one end to, which is the bottom end right there from the item on the right. The bottom end attaches and screws on to the battery, which is on the left, and the other side is a USB, which you can either attach to an adapter and plug that into the wall, or you can just plug it into, if you guys have a computer or a laptop that has a USB charging device, USB port, then you can attach it onto there and just have it, charge on your computer. And I usually just charge mine through a USB port to my laptop, and basically what you see would happen if you charge it is after you attach everything and plug it in, your LED light, which is on the battery, will blink 3 times in blue, and after that the charger will turn red, as you can see from the light right here, which means that it's charging. And after a while it's going to flash green, and when it turns completely green and stays green, and an entire charge for me takes about 1 or 2 hours at max, and when that happens, when it turns completely green, then it is fully charged and you can unplug it, untwist it, and attach it back to the rest of the electronic cigarette for use. What I have right here are samples of electronic cigarette liquids. So these are 3 bottles of 20 milliliter liquid inside each of these bottles. And if you're going to a electronic cigarette store, you can pretty much, if you're just starting off vaping, you can ask the people there what kind of flavors they have, as well as what strength you should use since you're transitioning from a regular cigarette to, or whatever it is that you're using, to an electronic cigarette. So basically each different liquid comes with different flavors and strengths, and if you're going to a store, you can ask them about it. But if you're ordering online, there's usually a drop down menu from whatever site you're using that you can choose the different types of flavors from, as well as the different strengths of nicotine from. So again, if you're just starting off, then an estimate would be that if you're smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, that's 1 to 2 milligrams of nicotine that you absorb through each cigarette. So you need about, a little bit less, maybe a little bit less or more than 20 milligrams of nicotine in the electronic cigarette liquid. So basically what I found some sites say is to buy a bottle of 0 milligram nicotine and a bottle of 24 milligram nicotine, which is on the higher end. And so therefore you can start using the 24 milligram, which is kind of a higher strength, but if you find that it's too strong for you, you can dilute it out with a 0 milligram nicotine electronic cigarette liquid. So that way you would have 2 bottles of differing strengths, and if one of them, you start with the higher strength, and if it's too much, then you can dilute it with the 0 milligram strength. So basically, what I've seen are there are many different flavors, and you can find them at different sites. And there are flavors ranging from coffee to whiskey to champagne to fruits and regular tobacco flavors. So there's all sorts of varieties of flavors. And yeah, the strength really depends on you and how much you smoke every day. Um, Again, since electronic cigarettes are not studied that much in labs and stuff, it's kind of hard to determine how much is being absorbed and stuff like that, since it's kind of still pretty modern, so we don't know that much about it in terms of its health effects and in terms of, you know, how it's absorbed. So that area is something you have to figure out on your own, sort of, or you can ask the people who you visit at the shops if they can help you out in determining a strength. But ultimately, you have to kind of try it out your own and find the strength that works for you. And if you're trying to quit completely, then you know you can also keep diluting from whatever point you start off at. So if you're starting off at a higher strength, you know, the strengths vary from 0 milligrams to 36 milligrams, and this is per ml. So, you know, whatever tube you get, however much liquid is in there, you know, you take that and multiply it by the strength of each tube, and you'll get the entire amount of nicotine that's in the entire tube. So those are pretty much the e-liquids. So I've included this screenshot to show you what the differences are between the regular electronic cigarette and a regular cigarette. So the size difference, as you can tell right there, the electronic cigarette, even this is considered kind of a smaller electronic cigarette too, is bigger than an actual cigarette. And what I have, the actual cigarette, is just a regular Camel Crush. What I recommend is if you're just starting to quit, maybe you can transition. If you're really, you know, reliant on how you smoke and how it looks, and if you're really used to it, maybe since it's a habit, you can transition to an electronic cigarette that resembles the regular cigarette. And there are versions out there, you know, blue is one of them. There are electronic cigarettes out there that come in packs and they look just like regular cigarettes, and they even light up at the end. So maybe that's a better transition if you're just starting to quit smoking, since it looks really familiar and feels really familiar. Anyways, that was my review of the Ego T650 mAh electronic cigarette. And again, I bought it with this starter kit, which comes with both the electronic cigarette, all the parts that you need to start vaping, as well as the charger. And I got it again for around $15 off freecigs.com, as well as the e-liquids I got from there as well. And personally, I like flavors ranging from coffee to mint, because it kind of seems, with the mint flavor, you kind of just, it seems like you just chewed on a piece of mint gum, and it seems like your breath smells, you know, good from it, and it's refreshing. And I also like, you know, whiskey flavor. And, you know, if you're used to smoking and you're just starting to quit, maybe the tobacco flavor, which would be a better transition since it smells like regular smoke, or, you know, as close to it as it can be. But again, take all this hype about electronic cigarettes with a grain of salt, because again, there's not as many studies as there would ideally be regarding the safety and the relative, you know, health safety basically of electronic cigarettes versus actual cigarettes. So that's something to keep in mind, because a lot of people, you know, this is becoming a trend right now. And, you know, although it seems like it would be safer, there really aren't any studies to be shown. But basically, I've gone over the parts, how to recharge it, the different liquids there are, how to put liquid in. And if you have any other questions, just comment below, and hopefully this review helped you guys.